Hi there, and welcome to the seventh installment of Anycast. This is my podcast where we talk about anything that's going on, primarily in the sports world, but other stuff too. And by golly, was there a lot going on in the sports world since we've last discussed? So the MLB, as you probably have heard at this point, kept going back and forth with the owners, trying to reach an agreement to get a deal done so we can play some baseball. Well, no deal was done, and we're still playing baseball. What was the point of all that back and forth again if no one was going to reach an agreement? I mean, I understand what the players' concern are. They want the money. I mean, and then their safety, and they want to have as much games as possible. And their concern is about the health and safety, which is rightfully so. But the owners, I mean, it's hard to decide on which one, and especially in a situation where no one came out a winner in my book. And you wasted all this time when you could have gotten all these games done in the first place. Not that it's going to matter now because teams are starting to report cases of coronavirus. The Dodgers and the Twins just happen to be two of the latest teams to report cases. They didn't specify if it was major leaguers or minor leaguers or if there were any, managers or coaches that were testing positive for the coronavirus, but they're starting to take into effect. And Florida is among one of those states that has seen a tremendous spike in case counts, which is not great. It's not tremendous. It's horrible. And that's got to raise concern for the NBA, which is a month away from returning from its layoff as a result of the pandemic. Are there going to be any more cases? How are they going to protect themselves in that bubble? I mean, that's something that is going to be a we'll wait and see, keep your fingers crossed type deal. And the NFL's now taking a hit too. As many of you probably saw during the week, the Cowboys and Steelers were going to be playing in this year's Hall of Fame game. That got canceled, although they're saying it's going to be rescheduled for next year, as will the enshrinement ceremony for the 2020 class. Again, it's all because of the coronavirus pandemic. So this is the first big hit that the NFL has taken in regards to the pandemic. And several teams have reported cases too, including the Buccaneers. And so that's a big concern there because, obviously we as fans want to have these sports back because at this point we need something to get our mind off of what's been going on in the news. And sports is the ultimate distraction, the great diversion. And that is somewhat in doubt because of the all of a sudden uptick again in the coronavirus cases, especially with those southern states. But on the flip side, NASCAR continues to press on, although they're not having to deal with the coronavirus pandemic. They're dealing with another issue that has dominated the news, and that is the struggle for equality. Because Bubba Wallace continues to be, and this really, I don't know how to put it into words. Bubba Wallace should not be having to deal with what he has have to be dealing with. And as you probably heard, Sunday after the race got postponed and ultimately got run on Monday, one of Bubba Wallace's team members, found a noose in the parking garage that Bubba Wallace happened to be in. And so obviously, they did the right thing. They reported it to NASCAR. NASCAR then reported it to the FBI. The FBI did their own investigation and concluded that this was not a hate crime because the noose had been sitting there since October of last year. Now, how in the world did no one find this until this week? It's been sitting there for almost a year and no one found it until this week. That's what baffles me. And NASCAR did their own confirming, and they went through all the tracks, and there were some garage pole ropes, and only one of them, the one that was in Bubba Wallace's garage at Dega, was a noose. That just baffles me. Because again, this is what we're trying to fight against. We're trying to get rid of this inequality. We are trying to treat people equally, show some kindness, show some caring. And the fact that Bubba Wallace, and I give him major credit for what he's having to deal with. He's going to all these shows. He was on the Today Show. He was on CNN Tonight with Don Lemon, which I got to watch his interview with. And you can see and feel the emotions that Bubba is dealing with right now. He's frustrated. He's confused. He's having to deal with all of that. And believe me, I can only imagine what it's like. I mean, that's terrible that Bubba Wallace is having to deal with that. So I support Bubba, and I applaud NASCAR for what they have done to support Bubba Wallace, and I support the drivers and the crews for what they have done to support Bubba Wallace. If you didn't catch the Talladega race, it got postponed on Sunday because Mother Nature has dominated the sport, especially since we've returned from the pandemic. So it got pushed to Monday. So most of you were probably working on Monday and didn't catch the pre-race stuff, although by now you probably have seen it on YouTube. And I would definitely check it out because that definitely got to me, and it definitely will get to you as well. And this was all done by Jimmy Johnson, Kevin Harvick. They led this push. They pushed Bubba Wallace's car to the front of the pit stall. And they all stood around Bubba Wallace. And Brad Keselowski, who I respect the hell out of, he raised the American flag during the national anthem in front of Bubba Wallace's car. I mean, if that's not the image of the year in NASCAR or in any sport for that matter, I don't know what is. Because, I mean, that really got to me. And that was incredible to watch. And then after the race, which was a thrilling finish, by the way, Dave Blaney won in dramatic fashion in what was a crazy finish to the end. There were by the way, there are spectators in there. They're allowing 5,000 fans within the area, so not like out of state, but within the area, to go catch the race. They got to cheer Blaney with the win, but then they stuck around and waited for Bubba to come to cheer and support Bubba. Again, very powerful image there, and I absolutely admire that image. And again, that next to the pre-race stuff has to be the image of the year in NASCAR at least. And I continue to stand for Bubba Wallace and what he stands for. And I continue to try to support equalism because I have been raised, and I'm sure many of you have been raised, to treat others the way you are treated. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say something at all. Be nice to people. Kind, caring. That's what we need in this country. And so I continue to support Bubba Wallace and what he's having to stand up for. And I stand by with him. I stand with Bubba. There's a hashtag going on, I stand with Bubba. And I'm sure you've probably seen all those social media pages. Shane and Spake, for example, was one of them, that posted a picture of the iconic 43 number, you know, the number scheme. And then there's a hashtag that says, I stand with Bubba. And that'll be the image for what you'll see when you're watching this podcast episode on YouTube, because normally I have my Blues logo on there to support my champs. But for this episode, I'm going to have the 43 on there as a reminder of what we're standing for and what we still need to learn and understand. It's okay to have these discussions. I know it can feel uncomfortable to have these discussions, but it's important to have these discussions so we can learn and understand each other, and so we can try to help one another. Because we want to try to treat each other equally, and we want to do it with kindness and caring. So, Bubba, if you watch this podcast, this is for you. I stand by you, and I stand for you. I stand with Bubba. Now, something else that has been baffling me as of late, as you probably have heard, the coronavirus cases are going up again, and now it's dominating the news again. And it's primarily in those big states like California, Texas, and Florida. And it baffles me because there are so many people that are just ignoring the guidelines. In fact, we've had to get the task force back. We hadn't had a task force briefing in 2 months, and we had to bring them back because in the 2 months since the last meeting, things have gotten out of control. No, not a lot of people are wearing masks. There's not a lot of social distancing. People are treating it like things are back to normal because they were getting anxious to get back out after doing this lockout, which was perfect. The lockouts were good. Not good for the economy, obviously, but in the fact that we were able to get this pandemic under control. There is a way to keep it under control until we get a vaccine. Masks have to be worn. It is not a political issue with masks. It is a health concern. If you don't wear a mask, you could be potentially spreading this disease to other people who are vulnerable to this. And that's baffling to me that nobody is doing anything to help it. Heck, even Sanjay Gupta from CNN, who I absolutely admire and I appreciate what he's saying. He's had to go on every day, talking about this. He's at the point now where he's baffled and frustrated. And I share his frustration because I feel like we're going nowhere. We can get a hold of this pandemic. It's not that hard. It's simple. All you have to do is wear a mask, keep your social distancing, and wash your hands, and you'll be fine. Until we get a vaccine, this is going to be the best way in order to treat this pandemic, because if we don't do this, we're going to ultimately be back to where we were in March, and we're going to have to shut down again, and all that work we did to get it down would be for nothing, because now it's coming up again. So, I feel like we have to do something about this. And this is why it's important to think about who you're going to vote for president come November. Donald Trump, while he's done a good job with the economy, in this situation, considering what we're dealing with, both with the pandemic and the issue with inequality, I don't think is a proper leader for this. At this point, I need someone who's going to care for the people, understands the people, and is going to help us get through these issues. And I believe Joe Biden is that person. I mean, at this point, you might as well take him over Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is not going to do anything to help get us out of this mess. He's more concerned about his economy because it's the only thing that he's got going for him for re-election. And you can see he's losing big time in these polls. And he's not helping his cause by not wearing a mask. He's not helping his cause by doing these rallies like he did in Arizona, like he did in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where his secret agents have now tested positive for the coronavirus. He's not helping his cause by doing all this stuff. Instead of doing all that stuff and worrying about his campaign, he should be out there leading. He should be out there helping us. He should be out there making sure that we can get this coronavirus under control until we get a vaccine. So that way when we get a vaccine, then we've got this completely under control at that point. But it's in our hands. If the president is not going to do anything about this, we need to do something about this. We can do it. All we have to do is just believe in each other, have hope, have positivity, and do the right thing, and realize, come into our hearts, that if we do the right thing, we are going to at least ease the pain. It's not going to completely get us out of the woods, but it'll at least get us out of the dark tunnel that we're in right now. And so that's how I feel about what we're dealing with right now. Because as long as this pandemic continues to get out of control, it's going to jeopardize our sports that we're trying to bring back so we can have this diversion. At this point, all I feel is that we need to have some kind of leadership. We need someone that's going to care, and we need to get a hold of this pandemic. We need to respect each other. We need to treat each other equally. We need to treat each other properly, and we need to respect each other, not just with the equality, but with the pandemic as well. Because we don't want this to spread any more than it already has at this point. And so I hope that this gets out so that way people understand the importance of what we need to do in order to get us out of this hole. Because we can do this together. We have gone through tough obstacles before, and we've gotten through it with flying colors. And I still believe that we can try to get out of this together. But we have to work together as a team in order for that to happen. And I'm hoping that is the case. So that's it for this week's podcast. And I will see you again on the next episode. So take care and stay safe, guys.